working out the signals for the Baltimore Colts. Unitas gives to Amici. The Colts are the world champions. Amici scores.
It's amazing, sensational, dramatic, heart-rending, exciting, thrilling finish in the history of college football. California has won the big game.
5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
This is Phil Steele.
This is Mike Burnham.
This is Wes Durham.
This is Mike Ashley.
Hi, this is Chuck Foreman, number 44 of the Minnesota Vikings.
Woo, mercy, this is handsome Jimmy Van, the Boogie Woogie Man.
This is Coach Fry with Virginia Tech Football, and you are listening to Big Dog Sports Talk.
Are you ready to rock? Are you ready to roll? Okay, let's do it.
Rick Watson's got the mic, he's the big dog king. Cover sports so sharp, it's a new river thing. Virginia Tech fire, rapid pride too. Every stat, every play, he's bringing it to you. He's got that voice, deep as a valley, breaking it down, no dilly, no dally. Big dog sports talk, feel the bark, feel the bite. Rick's in the zone, every day, every night, from the Hokies to the Highlanders. He's got the spark, big dog sports talk, lighten up the dark. He's got the scoop, faster than a sprint, calling plays like a coach, every word's a hint. From the courts to the fields, the stories unfold. Rick's play-by-play, worth its weight in gold. With a laugh and a growl, he'll pull you in. Big Dog's podcast, let the games begin. Big Dog Sports Talk, feel the bark, feel the bite. Rick's in the zone, every day, every night, from the Hokies to the Highlanders. He's got the spark, Big Dog Sports Talk, lighten up the dark. Sports talk, feel the bark, feel the bite. Rick's in the zone, every day, every night, from the Hokies to the Highlanders. He's got the spark, Big Dog Sports Talk, lighten up the dark. Big Dog Sports Talk, feel the bark, feel the bite. Rick's in the zone, every day, every night, from the Hokies to the Highlanders. He's got the spark, Big Dog Sports Talk, lighten up the dark.
Hey, good morning. How are you? It is the, hang on. We don't want that to start over again. It's the Monday edition of the program. Hope you're well, wherever you might be. Hang on here. We're going to. Professionalism, right here. There we go. Everybody enjoy that? Tried to adjust the mic some, so let me know. People were saying that it was a little too soft on Friday. We've had to adjust some scheduling this week because, people are doing stuff. Coach Elmo will join us. Todd Grantham will be on tomorrow instead of today. He's got, that UAB coaches stuff to do today. Phil Steele tomorrow. And then Mike Burnham on Wednesday. No volume at all? Really? I can hear me. Amelia, can you hear me? Good morning, Amelia. Y'all let me know. Because at this point, I don't know what it would be. Everything looks good on my end. Let me check here. Let me check. No, mic's good on this end. Someone in chat, let me know. Everybody hear me loud and clear? I can hear me in the headphones. And I'm getting a level being read. So, y'all let me know. Y'all let me know in chat. The McClellan Chiropractic chat room. Because if it's low again, I don't know what that would be, to be honest. Can't hear me that well. Interesting. Okay. Well, let me, y'all stay here for a second, talk amongst yourselves. Let me see what's going on here with the mic. Let me know. I do not see any problems with volume on my end here. So I got the microphone right up. I mean, I can go a little louder here, but I'm afraid if I go much louder, it's going to be one of those deals where I'm going to blast you out, and I hope that does not happen. But y'all let me know. Let me know. If you can't hear anything at all, then, you know, we got an issue. But I'm not seeing that on my end at all. So we've got Coach Elmo today, and then Phil Steele tomorrow, Mike Burnup on Wednesday, Todd Grantham tomorrow, and then Thursday is our all-staff, all-day meeting at Radford. And so I'll have to cut Thursday morning show short. So I'm not looking forward to that. So there we go. Yeah. I'm trying something else here just to see if there's anything. Yeah. Everything is cranked up. Yeah, we're good. We're good on everything. So all that's coming up this week here on the program. So Phil Steele will be on tomorrow at 8, and we're going to get into the ACC and what he thinks of Virginia Tech and all these good things to get you fired up and ready for the season, even more than you may already be. Miami's getting a lot of love, as expected. WNBA making all the news for all the wrong reasons, as it refused to wear the USA 250 patch on its all-star uniforms. It was the only pro sport to reject the patch, saying that they did that because 250 years ago, America did not represent freedom or something along those lines. So this league continues to be anti everything that it should be if it wants to start being accepted. The NBA, of course, didn't come out and say anything against their decision. So if you're compliant, you're in agreement. Basically means the same thing. And I don't know why the league has drifted to the way that it is. I don't know why it's, trying to take out its meal ticket for generations to come in Caitlin Clark. And I don't know why the game itself is so bad. There were memes all over the weekend of just how horrible the highlights were from the WNBA All-Star game. And then they came out with this political statement about why they didn't wear the 250 patch. And I shake my head at this continuing to be something that, no matter what you may think about America, it is capitalism verbatim. And when you're trying to constantly go out and anger your client or your customer, I don't see the benefit of that ever. So I'm not real sure what the situation is with that league, but whatever is going on, it's not good. It's not good. And it's going to continue to, I think, lead to its own demise, to be honest. So that was something that happened here on the Reaction Monday from the weekend. Baseball, everything's kind of coming along quietly, right? You have the trading deadline in Major League Baseball with a long work stoppage looming that's kind of taken over everything else about the game. You've got NFL training camps opening full throttle this week, and I haven't heard much about it, which is strange considering we have all this coverage dedicated to it, but yet we're not getting much on it whatsoever. And then you have the start of college football practice at the end of the week into next week. And I guess that's probably getting the most hype of anything. But the NFL camps are kind of opening very quietly. We found out, did you see this with Kyle Shanahan? He was in a bad car wreck and it wasn't reported by anyone. What's up, Morris? From Jefferson National Forest, deep woods where Bigfoot roams, to Palm Coast where baby gators can be found in million-dollar homes. BDST is live and online. Morris, you'll tell me how's the volume, Morris? I worked on it a little bit. We should be good. Everything's telling me that we're good. That was funny. That's a good one. Very good one. But it is kind of strange how quietly camp is opening across the league. What's up, Anthony? Good morning. How are you? Been a while. Go Cards. All right, Morris says we're good. If Morris says we're good, we're good. I think that last little adjustment I made may have done it, so I'll keep an eye on it, make sure it stays at that level. So, you want me to tell you? Let's see. Anthony may already know. So here's the Phil Steele mag, by the way. And I'm not going to lie, it's expensive. It went up $5. That's a lot. It's $25. So he's got Louisville picked in a three-way tie for second, Anthony, with SMU and Clemson. Clemson's still getting the benefit of the doubt. You know, Phil had Clemson playing in the national title game last year. Five ACC home games. And you have your running backs returning. So it's only in what's the bookstore? Almost said Walden Books. Walden Books over at the University Mall in Blacksburg. Hell, I can't think of the name of the chain. There's only one bookstore chain left. What's the name of it? Come on, help me out here, people. He's got an exclusive deal with those. You can order them from his site. You can order them online, but for the love of, how in the world is that? I just drawing a blank. This is what happens when you get older. $40 on Amazon. Now, don't do it that way. Don't do it that way. Barnes & Noble, for the love of God. Barnes & Noble, not Walden. Barnes & Noble, you can find them in there. They've got a big display up just as you walk in. So any Barnes & Noble you walk into, you can get it for the 25 more. Yeah, don't, $40? Really? I guess that's shipping and everything. Look, it's a great companion to the season, but we're glad to have him tomorrow. There were some things that had to be ironed out in terms of what they expected from people who were going to have him on. That's a nice way to say it. This year, and we had a nice conversation. So he's going to be on tomorrow. So anyway, I think the ACC will be a lot more interesting than people think. Yeah, no, I was Barnes & Noble. You could have sat here and said, hey, Rick, here's a pile of $100,000. Tell us the name of that store in the next 23 seconds. That money, you're taking that money home with you. Whew. I don't go in there very often. So I still read. I have a lot of sports books that I had over the years, and I like to go back and reread those or read some that I forgot. I'm reading about the old AFL right now and the Packers from the 60s, things of that nature. So I don't frequent bookstores. Not a big latte guy. Like, I can never understand. I would never be the kind of guy who would go into a bookstore, get a sandwich and a drink, and just sit there for hours reading a book. And I understand people that love that environment, but that's just not me. But I think the ACC is going to be better than people think. And I don't mean us people. I mean SEC and Big Ten people that just want to dog the league. Because I was just looking in Phil's predictions, and we'll ask him this tomorrow. What's up, Teddy? How are you? Where does he have Indiana in the Big Ten? Well, let me tell you, Teddy. Got to be honest, I haven't perused. I was waiting until tomorrow. He's got them. He's got Ohio State, Indiana, and Oregon all kind of the same. He's got ones beside each. So there you go. So he likes them all equally. Miami, SMU, Clemson, and Louisville seem to be the big four teams. You have Pitt, Virginia, Virginia Tech. He's got them all with 5s. NC State's got a 5. So you have 4 teams there he views kind of equal value. Georgia Tech right below that. Sorry, Steve. Florida State. Then he has Duke, Carolina, Wake, Cal. He's got Cal pretty low considering they return such a dynamic quarterback. Syracuse, Stanford, and BC. So I think you have 3 true bottom dwellers in the ACC. Syracuse, Stanford, BC. Bill O'Brien was, 2-10 last year. I don't see how he keeps his job much longer. He's got Darian Mensah, the number 1 quarterback in the league. Then Kevin Jennings, who I think is the best quarterback in the ACC. He's going in year number 3 as a starter. down in Dallas. That's very impressive. He got paid, but that's okay. That's sock money for them. C.J. Bailey from NC State, and then the Heinzschel kid from Pitt. Those are your top 4 quarterbacks. Isaac Brown and Mark Fletcher, your running backs. He does have Virginia Tech's Kason Brown, the kid from Duke, as his second team, one of his second team wide receivers. Kamari Copeland made first team defensive tackle for Phil. So there you go. So we'll talk to him about all that tomorrow, and we'll get it from the horse's mouth. But it's still a terrific thing to have. Thanks to Jimmy McKenna again for getting this for me. Jimmy, I know you're not usually in chat, but thank you so much for that. That's really cool. Really, really cool. So we'll have him on tomorrow at 8. That's what it looks like. I think that's what it looks like here locally too. And it's $25. It's got a big price tag on it. But I think the unknowns is what makes the ACC really interesting to me. And I'm not just talking about from Tech and Virginia perspective. Like, I want to see how Florida State looks, knowing that Mike Norvell probably realizes he's dead man walking. That to me is intriguing. Does Miami have a foothold now? Are they that program? We'll see. Morris says we have Barnes & Noble at Augie. First Panera breadsticks, then appointment at 2, then up stuffer into Barnes & Noble. There you go. Anthony says, I think the Hokies will be in the thick of it, and that's good for the ACC as a whole. I mean, I base the whole thing on last year. I mean, Virginia and Duke were an afterthought going into the season, and there they are playing on the final day of the league, for the title. So it just goes to show you anything can develop, anything can happen. It sounds like a cliche, but it unfolded just like that in front of us last year. But Tech could very well be in the thick of it. Very well could be in the thick of it. Virginia, I think everybody wants to sleep on Virginia. We'll see. We'll see. They have a very fortuitous schedule again. And a quarterback that's getting a lot of rave reviews that transferred in from Missouri. So all I know is when I hear that the offensive line is really good, the best in the conference, when I hear the defensive line's really good, anybody who coaches football, who's around football, if you have those two areas of your football team in a good spot going into a season, everything else you can develop. Take your time a little bit even during camp and develop. If you've got those two areas secure, and apparently UVA does, that's a very, very impressive head start on where most teams are heading into August. Virginia Tech's still searching. I mean, I get a little, I'm like Dwight, I don't want to hear about this great depth. Now, he spoke directly about the offensive line because, he was pretty darn good this just in. He wants to see 5 starters that contribute. He knows what to look for. You don't want to hear about 12 guys, 10 guys. Okay, find 5 that are going to go out there and allow your new quarterback and your running game to develop. You can talk about all these different guys that could potentially give you depth. Okay, that's great. You worry about depth after you have your 5 starters. Does Virginia Tech have 5 starters? We'll see. It's been a while since they had that. There's a lot of things you can point to as to why Brent Pry was such an immense failure as the head coach. And he never got the offensive line right, even with Joe Rudolph leading the way. Are there still books a million? That's cool. We don't have those anymore around here. Okay, so you can get them at Books A Million too. Anthony says if you can run and stop the run, you always have a chance. I know. That's the thing about it, Anthony. It does. You say that, right? And I feel the same. People say, well, it's just a cliche. No, it's truth. Most cliches are truth. And that's football. On our Big Dog Pop, Coach Mabry wears a hat that just says, run the damn ball. When Frank Beamer built his Virginia Tech empire, it was about running the football. I don't think, he would come on the show every other week back. Isn't that amazing? Think about a Hall of Fame coach willingly coming on a show. Nowadays, you have to have an appointment, kidney, urine sample. And he always would revert back to being able to run the football in one way or the other during our half-hour conversations. And Virginia's got a head start on that. I think Tech's defensive line could be pretty good. It needs to be. It needs to be. Yeah, and a blood draw. That's right. Yeah, you got to you got to donate some blood. And defensive line play comes down really to it doesn't even come down to sacks. I think sacks are an overrated stat. It's about pressure. It's about keeping the quarterback uncomfortable. Can you consistently stuff the run? Can you make it difficult for teams to run the football? As Anthony said. Can you keep a quarterback kind of shadow dancing in the pocket? Those are the things that tell you if you have a good defensive line on passing downs. It doesn't necessarily have to be sacks. Sacks are a bonus. Do you have him flushed out of the pocket, trying to make him throw on the run, trying to make quick decisions while he's running for his life? Something that Bud Foster's defenses did regularly. Yeah, I know, Morris, you got your hat, did you? You got your run the damn ball hat. I kind of want one too. Those are nice. Those are nice. The great Dan Callahan, God rest his soul, used to say, well, it's now very popular. He was the first one I heard say it. When you throw the football, three things can happen and only one of them is good. So you have a 33% chance of success whenever you decide to throw, was his. What to thank Family Fencing, by the way, sponsor of our studios, 540-200-8294. They were the first sponsor we ever obtained here on the new program. We're coming up on our year anniversary in mid-August. So thanks to Jason Green and everybody at Family Fencing. Thanks to Mark Hunley over McClellan Chiropractic. He'll be back for year 2, and we're excited about that. We're going to do more things. The next video, by the way, the video that he showed you all the diagnostics has over 600 rewatches, which is cool. Next video is going to have me on the gauntlet, so I want to do that. And it's really cool. I don't have to do anything, really just kind of sit there, which is really neat. BDST fan question of the week. We'll get to that in a moment. We're presented each and every day by Pulaski County Sports Entertainment. The jet ski race is coming up pretty soon. The track looks great, by the way. They've done a great job refurbishing that. They knew that might be like a 2-year project. And the Sportsplex, you saw that here on the channel. Man, oh man, oh man. Little River Heating and Air, 1095 Radford Street in Christiansburg, 540-553-2971. And there you go, the attorney Ryan Pry in Radford, 701 West Main Street, Trust and Estate Planning. And I have forgotten the question we were going to ask. Brandon, are you in here? Brandon, I couldn't remember Barnes & Noble. Lord knows I can't remember the question. I just remember it was really good. So when Brandon shows up, we're going to use his question. National Bank member FDIC, the exclusive banking partner of this program, and yours truly, 35 years, by the way. I've been with them. And you should as well. Thanks to the NRV Super Bowl. Again, thanks to Terry and Amanda, 540-382-5525. Leagues are forming now. Mixed leagues, women's leagues, men's leagues, youth leagues, 12 and under. So when you go there, sign up. If I were good enough consistently, that'd be fun. It'd be fun to be part of a bowling league. I'm not. I had a decent recovery of the bash, but I'm not that guy. Sundown Electric, 5-star reputation, craftsmanship, costs they keep down, and they're always in communication with their customers. Reach out to the Smith Brothers in Elliston. They are outstanding. ReadySetFund.com, BobChrist11 at Gmail. Check out ReadySetFund.com as you have a opportunity to raise money quickly through a series of text messages. If you have any questions as well, you go to the website, and you also go to ReadySetFund.com. Right? Thanks to James Lawson's Mobile Home Supply, 543-1811, 300 North Franklin Street. Parts for your home, doors, windows, plumbing, whatever it might be. And, of course, Professional Door Incorporated with Travis Williams, 40 years. This is your last week. You have until Friday to call them up. And if you want to get your garage door checked, if it's making weird noises, if it's not necessarily raising and closing the right way, preventative maintenance visit, $40 off here to celebrate 40 years in business. 674-0008, 674-0008. Right? 540-674-0008. "40 years in business." You have to tell them you heard us talking about it here on the program. Yep. Thanks to all of our sponsors. We quite literally couldn't do the show without you. And people still talking about the bash, which is awesome. It felt weird this past Saturday not being there. Like, you got to that time of day on Saturday. He's like, oh, we should be at the bash right now. But we're not. We weren't. Professional Door text line is kicking this morning. Who do I like in the National Football League, Dennis? You mean as my personal favorite? Well, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious back here. But, no, you mean who I like? Off the top of my head, if I'm going to pick a Super Bowl winner today, it'd be the Rams. I think the Myles Garrett acquisition is that significant. And I believe Aaron Donald's going to play football. I really do. And I hope he does. We talked about it with David Smith. We're going to go over the NFC West this week. David couldn't be on last week. He was traveling with business. And he'll be back this week. So right now on paper, for me, it's the Rams. %100. That's on paper. You know, they don't play the games there. It's not worth a damn. But I am a huge Matthew Stafford fan. He's a surefire Hall of Famer. I still don't think he gets enough credit. Nakua is rehabbed. He's done a great job taking account of his personal life. Kudos to him. He's a superstar in the making. Realized he was having a substance problem, and he attacked it, put it out there. Have a lot of respect for anyone who's tackling their issues head on. I think that's a team that got a little closer because of all that, and they got a little closer because I still believe they believe that they're better than Seattle, who beat them last year, then went on to win the Super Bowl. And that is lots of motivation, and then you bring in Myles Garrett. Oh, by the way, here comes Myles Garrett. Jeez Louise. Woo. Still wondering how people tried to act like the Browns won that trade. There were actually people on X trying to just stop. Yeah, isn't he, Anthony? Isn't Stafford just, he's criminally underrated. I mean, look at his numbers. Watch him play the game of football. Terrific quarterback. What a great trade they made. And, you know, Jared Goff hasn't been horrible to the Lions, clearly, but he's not Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford is easily a top 5 quarterback for me. Easily. I think Josh Allen's probably the best pure quarterback in the league when you put everything together. I mean, you're going to put Mahomes in there. Clearly, right? That's going to happen. Then you kind of look at the rest of the list, and then you have trouble necessarily finding out people, you know. Is it Lamar? Is it your guy, Anthony? Is he in that tier too? I mean, he hasn't won a championship, but he's a dynamic player. And then you have Matthew Stafford. I mean, go through the teams and tell me where there are other quarterbacks that are just, you know, elite quarterbacks in the National Football League. You want to go through the divisions? Let's go through the divisions. Dak Prescott, is he elite? Jalen Daniels, he can't stay healthy. Jalen Hurts, he has a Super Bowl. And the Giants don't know. They're not quite sure yet with their young quarterback. Go to the Green Bays. Love that guy. Does Minnesota even have a quarterback? We just talked about golf. Caleb Williams, can he get there? Let's go to the South. Is there any quarterback in the South of that division? Baker Mayfield. He's the best quarterback in that division. And then you have out west. You got my guy, Stafford. You got Purdy. You had a great redemption story in Seattle last year. And in Arizona, I think I'm starting 5 games this year for the Cardinals. Looking forward to it. I've got the little 10-yard out pattern down. Then you've got Allen. You've got Miami going with Malik Willis. I mean, New England's got a franchise guy, but he's not quite there yet. The Jets don't have one. Sanders is elite. Oh, wait. So Cleveland does not have one. Joe Burrow. Okay, put Joe Burrow in there, I guess. I'm taller than Arizona's former quarterback, yes, who's now in Minnesota. Who the hell is Arizona's quarterback? Who's the Cardinals quarterback? Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew, and Keaton Slovis. That's the quarterback depth chart in Arizona. The Jets' quarterback depth chart is Geno, Cade Klubnik, and something called Brady Cook. The Vikings, Kyler Murray, J.J. McCarthy, who they clearly don't like, and Carson Wentz. Is that real for the Jets? How can the Jets have Geno Smith, Cade Klubnik, who didn't even really cut it in the ACC, and Brady Cook? And the Ravens have Lamar. I think you have to put Lamar in there, don't you? I think you have to put Lamar in there. Mitch, what's up on the text line? Hey, Rick, look at the Steelers depth chart. Hey, you got Aaron Rodgers, Will Howard, Drew Allar, the kid from Penn State. Or Aller, however he says it. Then if you have Trevor Lawrence, who is their franchise guy, I don't know what's going to happen with Daniel Jones in Indy. I love Cam Ward, Tennessee, but I don't think he's there yet. Good dude, though. Kid smart, too. I love the way he plays. I hope he develops. I hope he ends up having a good career. Seems like a good dude. And then, of course, Houston, it's a big year for the Texans because they have to rehab their own quarterback. Because he was my guy coming out of that draft all along. And C.J. Stroud took a massive step backwards. And he was terrible last year. And now Bryce Young, who came out with him, who's a terrific dude, is starting to bounce back a little bit, and Stroud came down. This is a big year for him in Houston, I think. Carolina's got an interesting, by the way, I just punched it in. So behind Bryce Young, they have the former Pitt Panther, Kenny Pickett. And then the Georgia Tech quarterback, Haynes King. I love Haynes King. Haynes King's going to win that backup job, isn't he? At some point. And then, of course, the AFC West, you've got the elite of all, Mahomes. Bo Nix is not there. Mendoza at some point. And then you have Justin Herbert. The AFC West has the best quarterbacks 1 through 4, I believe. It'd be that or the NFC East. Or maybe the NFC West. I know. After he didn't, exactly. Look at the quarterback group. So Lamar's got to be there. Yeah, he's definitely tier 1. Definitely tier 1. But some guys are hanging in there and bouncing back. I respect, Bryce Young a lot. He didn't get down himself after a couple of bad years, and he had a good year last year. And Carolina subsequently got better. Imagine that. Your quarterback plays well, you end up having a good year. I hope Daniels can come back. He just got to be healthy. Let's see. Now that I look at it, who's behind him in Washington? Marcus Mariota, that's right. Hey, and then the former Demon Deke / Fighting Irish quarterback, Sam Hartman. But I hope Jaden Daniels can come back. He's got to stay healthy. And, if I were him, I'd have hung out with Lamar a lot about the ins and outs of being a dual threat quarterback in the league. Hang on, Gerald. Everybody now asking me about their team's depth chart. Cowboys behind Dak. Joe Milton III and Sam Howell. Ouch. Elbo's coming up at 7, Morris. We had to alter the shows early this week because people doing different stuff. So Todd Grantham tomorrow, Phil Steele tomorrow, Mike Burnip on Wednesday. Dak Prescott, Joe Milton, and Sam Howell. Sam Howell, of course, is famous on this show because there was a clip that was taken out of context back when Neil was producing the show where I was saying people actually are pretending like Sam Howell is the Mike Vick of the ACC, the next Mike Vick. So Neil clipped that to where it just had me going, Sam Howell is the next Mike Vick of the ACC. Which was never said. Which was never, ever said. So if the Cowboys lose Dak, matter of fact, you can say that about any team. There's a lot of trouble there. A lot of trouble there. Joe Milton and Sam Howell? You're the Dallas Cowboys, and that's the best you can do? Whew. Okay. No, that's not true, Wayne. See? not true at all. Did not happen. That did not happen. Because if it would have.
Oh my. Oh, no. Oh, no. That was out of nowhere.
What's up, Bobby? Yes, I do. I say it quite frequently. Ethan Ruckemeyer, I think, is going to have a really good first year in Blacksburg. Yes, I do. I think he's going to have a terrific year if the offensive line ends up being good, or even serviceable, solid, above average. My concerns with Virginia Tech is on the defensive side of the football. If you want to get down to the brass tacks, the defensive side of it, from personnel to scheming to coaching, if I'm a Tech fan, I'm watching that development through the first month of the season carefully. Yeah, I did love Trevor Lawrence's locks. I did say that. I will stand by that. I mean, he looked like Fabio, didn't he, when he came out? Actually, when he was at Clemson winning national championships. And he'd take off his helmet and he would just flow them in the wind. Yeah, he's kind of lost that golden locks luster a little bit. Now, they were better last year. He needs to get that back. I think when he embraces the golden locks, much like Samson in the Old Testament, he draws his strength from his hair, right? You remember what they did to Samson, right? He had an illicit affair. And then they cut his hair and he had no strength, and then they blinded him. Delilah. Yeah, it was Delilah. The lords of the Philistines bribed her with 1,100 pieces of silver. And when he told her about the hair, they cut his hair, they blinded him, and then he got healthy at the end. His hair grew back, and he killed them all. And that's your Bible lesson for the morning. Trevor looks like the quarterback in who's Sunshine? Oh, does he have a bob now? Ooh. Does he really? Now, see, that's you're not going to win. The franchise should dock his pay just for that. Let me see. Let's see. Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence now. I'll do Trevor Lawrence today. That's what usually shows up. Let's see what images we have of Trevor. No, thankfully he still looks the same. I think that whole thing with his haircut was fake. Yeah. But if he loses the hair, he's done. He's done. Yeah, if I'm a NFL teammate and my quarterback shows up in a bob, I'm immediately not getting in the huddle and I'm not trusting that guy. The man bun is one of the worst things that's ever been developed. Preach it, Pastor Watson. Samson reference, put down some fire and brimstone. Well, I'm just saying, Trevor Lawrence's secret was clearly in his golden locks. Embrace it, flow them, brush them out during the game, whatever you need to do to be that guy again. Don't you think that Dabo Swinney wishes he had a guy who had golden locks like Trevor? He hasn't been able to fill the void at that position since Trevor Lawrence left. It is one of the big contributions as to why Clemson's just kind of a... That, of course, how poorly Dabo has evolved as a portal-era head coach. It blows my mind. And he continues to talk about it like it's something that I don't think he's ever going to do until he finally decides to leave. He's built up so much hand down there. I always use hand because that's the Seinfeld episode I like so much. George wanted some hand in the relationship, and he got it, and then he lost it. Dabo's built up so much hand that he's been they've overlooked a lot of things. They finally, the people around the program, the real people who run the program, the money people, said, no, we're not going to continue to be in 2018 here. We need to go ahead and build this thing up. I saw what did I see? No, I'm not going to quote it correctly. There was about a 77%, something like that. 77% of first-team all-conference players last year in the power leagues were transfer players. How about that? The man bun that Kyle Guy had for UVA was atrocious. They called it the Guy bun, and people wondered why we laughed at UVA. And I think you're exactly right, Anthony. I've talked about it. Matter of fact, I would say Venables and Elliott, now that we see how Tony Elliott has stabilized Charlottesville, he lost his generals, and he wasn't ready to go into war. As the chief of staff. Now, Venables, it's okay to be a better coordinator. That's what Brent Pry's trying to prove this year in Blacksburg. It's okay if you're a coordinator and that's what you do. I mean, look at Bill Belichick's coaching tree. I don't know if you can call Bill Belichick's folks a tree. It was more like they wilted on arrival as soon as they were planted and ground wherever they went. But I mean, Venables was clearly a terrific defensive coach. Doesn't mean he's a great head coach. He's trying to turn around at a place that's obviously football fervor. And maybe he's finding his footing along with Tony Elliott. So maybe it's both of those guys since they left. And he hasn't been able to get it back. He hasn't been able to find it again. So I think there's something to that, Anthony. I really do. Coach Elmo going to join us here momentarily. What'd you send me, Wayne? Oh, my Lord. This is the worst thing I've ever seen. So Duke's doing their little... See, this is where we are. Is this real? So this is Duke's football program on TikTok. It's a video, so you can just... Thanks, Wayne. This is where we are with today's younger athlete. The heading was from someone called Mostly Virginia Tech. Please, please, never let something like this see the light of day. Oh, TikTok. You know, I started one for the show like a couple months ago, and I immediately just said, yeah, this isn't going to work for me. This is not my thing. Well, there's a reason. Let me look it up one more time here before we hook up with Coach. There's a reason. Where does Phil have Duke? He's got Duke pretty low. Very low indeed. Who the hell's Duke's quarterback, by the way? Well, he's got him 11. And Phil does say Duke has now done better than he expected 4 straight seasons. Who did they replace Mensa with? What's their depth chart even look like? Something called Walker Eggett. Eggett? Who? backup is Dan Mahan. No idea. I have no idea. No idea. You need a bowling shirt with a bunch of bulldogs on it. Yeah, I'm going to send Coach Mo his invite here. He had something he wants to talk about, too. We're going to get into that. By the way, he's going to do the best preview and post view of every Tech game this year you're going to find anywhere. He does it with Greg Roberts. So we're going to have the best on YouTube. So when he's on there with Greg, it's the best on radio. So when he comes here, it's going to be the best on YouTube. So you're going to get matchups. You're going to get the things to look for. And it's going to be tough to do the opener, BMI, but he will. And then he's going to tell you why the game went the way it went. So you're going to love that coming up in the fall. I will, Anthony. TikTok videos. Hey, I see it from basketball teams. I see it from basketball players all the time. Our team does it all the time. Tech's team does it all the time. God, I mean, it's just young people today. It's different, man. Yeah, what Mensa did to Duke was, you talk about breaking their legs. But you know what? Kudos to Manny Diaz. He's done a nice job. And not just because he came on the old show twice, but he seems like a genuine dude. He got caught up in the Miami stuff. And he's done a nice job at Duke. He's showing you he's a good football coach. He's a good head coach. Now he has to come out of this losing his quarterback. Well, Thunder says, will AI replace ESPN broadcast? By the way, I love your messages, Thunder, on the professional door text line. I hope not, because if it happens at ESPN, that means it could happen to me. I don't think you can have AI replace people because it can't actually see things. You have to tell it to do things. So somebody would have to be telling you. Now, you could do a post game. You could have a game and then type it all in, and then it would pick it up that way. Didn't sleep well last night. Coach Elmo joins us now. What's going on, Coach, with your New Mexico Lobo coaching shirt this morning? What's going on?
Not much. Can you? How's the voice? Can you hear me? You good?
Yeah, we got you, Coach. Hey, before we get into what you want to talk about, what would you do if a bunch of your defensive players put out a TikTok video of them dancing going into camp?
Well, it's the way of the world, Rick.
I know. It is. It is.
The way of the world. I don't, I'm just glad I'm talking to you and not having to deal with that.
I bet you are. I bet you are. When you see all that, and you had we're going to get into everything you wanted to talk about, but I mean, you talk about the money part, you talk about the way it's different. What would be the most difficult thing for you today? Is it the sensitivity of everybody? You just couldn't coach the way you needed to be, the thing you believe to be true, that proved to be successful for so many decades?
Well, the toughest job you have as a coach, to create your winning, as they use the word military, is getting guys out of their own skin. Like the military, you want to create an atmosphere and an attitude of, I don't want to let my teammate down. The unselfishness, you put on a pair of glasses, and is that those glasses reflecting inward, or those glasses reflecting outward, where it's not about you. The Bo Schembechlers, the Lou Holtzes, Nick Saban, they were all outstanding, creating that attitude / atmosphere of get out of yourself and get into others. And that's where, your home visits and your recruiting comes into play. That you got to recruit that. You can recruit that. You go into the family, you look at the mom and the dad. I mean, we had that at Wisconsin. There wasn't a player on those football teams at Wisconsin that had a selfish bone in their body. And if you met them today, they're all into their late 40s, whatever. That's how they carry themselves. And that's, when we went to Virginia Tech in '93, that's the first thing we had to overcome. Not that they were bad kids, but it was all about themselves. As far as the quote disciplines of, the expectations and the demands of the game, not necessarily the demands of a coach. It's the demands of the game and the position you play, not the coach. So that's the toughest challenge you got. And it's still going to remain the toughest challenge, and probably more than ever before, because, like years ago, they used to say, hey, we get a high school kid that's been told he's the greatest thing in the world, not only by his family and coaches and community, but even the recruiters.
Yes.
And now they got to get humbled in a hurry. Coach Norton at Ferrum Junior College, we'd have 150 players out. He goes, pick out the best athlete on the team that all the players know he's the best athlete on the team. Get rid of his ass, and you got everybody's attention.
That's true. That's true. Let him go day one.
Day one. It's like, holy crap. They ran this guy off. Whoa.
What are we going to do?
And we had players, sometimes we had to put a cut list up because we just didn't have enough equipment during the season. When I was coaching there, divert a little bit, we had 4-a-day practices. And Jimmy Grove he always will tell you, he said, he knew I was absolutely nuts. I went through all 4 of them as a player.
Yeah.
As a quarterback, I felt like I had to be there in all 4 of those practices for the leadership role, and that's fact. And it actually about damn near killed me. And but when you go through those, it's just, you got to be able to take the selfishness out of that player, and where he is all about the guy next to you and not about himself. That's the biggest challenge, I think, and today more than ever before.
Yep.
Look at the video.
The video
that you
says
just
it all,
showed.
doesn't it?
And that doesn't mean they're bad kids. They're not bad kids. It's just
no.
They're it's the age of the phone and the computer, and hopefully if you're a head football coach and you have and especially your seniors in your program, if they can get to that point without going in the portal, but your leadership or / enforcers, and there's a difference, Rick. You know that.
Yep.
There's there's followers, leaders, and enforcers. Followers are good. You gotta have followers. You gotta have good followers. You need leadership. But the enforcers, there's usually that one guy. It doesn't take a lot. It's one guy. He walks in that locker room and that shit shuts down. The negativity shuts down. And so those are the challenges today. I had to think, and I'll tell you what, one of these days I'll photocopy this and send it to you. When we got fired at Nebraska, Tom Osborne was great. He was, to me, particularly, not necessarily because of me, but I asked him, I said, Coach, do you mind if I, until the new staff comes in, can I come into the office every day? Because they don't want you around, really. But he was the AD, he took over as the athletic director.
That's right, he did.
He said, sure, Phil, because you're afraid you're going to take stuff, this, that. Well, and he kind of knew me. That's not who I am. I said, I want to study what the hell happened. And I got a chance to talk to not every player, but the ones that had the biggest impacts in the program of the tenure while we were there with Bill Callahan in 4 years. And we deserved to be fired in the last year. The middle 2 years were great. They were out. We did a hell of a coaching job, and the kids did a hell of a job playing. The last year was like the first year. It was a disaster. So I talked about the kids. I ended up writing, I don't know, just bullet point type things of their conversations with the players and my experiences. It was about maybe 5 or 6 pages long, dealing with anything and everything of how a program can go south, basically, and the challenges that you have in coaching. And this was 2007. And I go back and I read it, and it's so applicable today. You know, I usually send some snippets out to Brian Steinspringer coaches that I'm very close to, and just share the experience of, hey, here's your challenge. This is your challenge you and your staff are going to have, whether you're winning or losing. You know, this every year when it starts over, that last year's record is done and gone. You're starting anew. So I'll photocopy. I think you'd appreciate it, and it's very, very applicable to today. So,
well, it is, and I wanted to get in, Coach. We talked about some of the things you had thought about, and about prospects, and about portal guys, and the GM. I wanted to get your take on all that because I know you've been thinking about all this and that relationship and contractual obligations and all these different things. What were some of your thoughts that you wanted to get into?
Well, you know, I got a chance to talk to Todd. He called yesterday. I just called him, wished him good luck in the preseason. Asked him some questions about PFF and that I wanted to know about, you know, on the site. Am I going to be able to see games in 2026 now? Because I'm thinking about what we plan on doing in the fall, you and me, about the evaluations.
Yeah.
He said, well, they won't probably be put up till Tuesday, the full games. I said, I was a little disappointed in that. However, particularly for Virginia Tech, if they're on TV, if they're not, I can watch the highlight and and then look at the statistics, and at least give you the why, what, how, who, basic questions of the game from an assistant coach's perspective. And like I was in a Sunday staff meeting with the head coach, and here's what we did well, here's what we didn't do well. These were the penalties that were critical parts of the game, personnel, where the mismatches were, blah, blah, blah. The things that I used to have to go over with head coaches, whether it was positionally or unit-wise, D coordinator. So we'll do that. But so I'm talking to Todd, and we were just shooting the bull. And, from the last conversation we had, it's funny. I started thinking to myself, I sent the last show to a couple of buddies of mine and my brother, who's got it, he's an anesthesiologist, he's a doctor. So, this guy can figure stuff out, even though it's football, but
pretty smart.
Come on. Yeah. When I was born, they said, you want a brain? I thought they said trays. They said, I'll take the next one. They gave it to my brother. So, I mean, this guy, my brother, is the smartest human being I've ever known. I mean, he could read books and comprehend. And me, I'd read a page and I got to go back and read it. I got to read the same page 20 times to figure it out. But I said it to my brother, and he was, because, the perspective that you and I, in the conversations we're having, I don't hear him talk. I don't hear anybody, coaches, talk about things that where you are in your program, what kind of identify. The best thing that the Joe Tillers and the Barry Alvarez's did in my tenure with them at that time in college football, they knew exactly who they were. As an example, in a recruiting meeting, with Joe Tiller, any coach who would come in and say, because we recruited Texas. Joe had, that's where Drew Brees came from. When Joe was at Wyoming, he had a Texas connection. I had a DB from Texas that he signed that ended up playing 12 years in the NFL as a starter and was not recruited by Texas or A&M or, it was a leftover, a throwaway out of Texas we could go in and get. So Joe, they knew who they were. And in the staff meeting, if you said, hey, coach, yeah, it's Oklahoma. Oklahoma's offered him, or Southern Cal has offered him, or Texas has offered him, he would lean. You got to know Joe. I mean, just YouTube him sometimes. Just YouTube Joe Tiller and listen to him speak. He just leaned forward. He goes, get off him. You're not getting him.
We're not getting that guy.
You're not getting him. And he goes, I don't care if the kid tells you we're number one. We're not getting him. And this is way before NIL, for God's sake. So Joe knew. Joe knew who Purdue was. And he'd always say, I want a Purdue guy. And he defined it, a smart guy that loves football and has enough talent. That was it. You get the Cliff Notes. Simplicity, genius is in the simplicity of a lot of things.
100%, right.
And he was very, I want a guy that just absolutely loves football, cannot do without it. A very smart guy, intelligent guy, and a guy that has enough talent that we can be competitive in the Big Ten. And we're talking about Ohio State and Michigan. That's the Big Ten was and how it went to be competitive, and so he understood that. And I do think, as we talked the other day about projection schools and selection schools.
Right.
I think each head coach has to know where. Now everybody has visions of where the programs want to be and who they are. They all want to be selection schools. But how do you get there? And it's not even the wins and the losses are going to have a lot to do with it. But how do you get there and how can you sustain it? Which is the key. Very few people are having this conversation. And I talked to Todd. This floored me. I was in shock on this, and it led me to some other thoughts. And this is where my William and Mary degree really screws me up because my brain goes 100 miles an hour, and it gets real dangerous, Rick. I got to go back. I got to go back to my Ferrum roots to get my feet back on the ground. So, see, I was born in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and right down the street was Harvard on the east side of town, or the west side of town, and on the east side of town on the Charles River. On the west bank of the Charles River was MIT, and none of it rubbed off on my ass growing up. But Todd was saying that as a group of six, and particularly his conference, the AAU conference, this shocked me, Rick. They must have done studies on 80% of the starters in the AAU got cherry-picked by Power 4 teams.
80%.
80%. I don't have that in front of me. I don't know that. Todd's a smart guy. What the hell? That shocked me. 80% of the starters in AAU conferences were cherry-picked. So guess what? And you take UAB as an example, or whatever. So the AAU, if you're a Power 6 AAU conference, I know Bowling Green lost 14 players to Power 4 teams. I know that. Brian White told me. They lost 14 players to NIL. And that could be, and not necessarily, it's got to be Power 4, because what the hell, why go from the MAC to the Sun Belt?
Right.
What the hell? You're going to try to move up, if anything. So I told Todd, I go, so guess what? Your power, I'm just going to say, okay, I got to believe in the MAC or the Sun Belt or whatever the hell the other conferences are in the group of six. Similar percentages, probably pretty high. They're losing like East Carolina, Old Dominion. Look at Ricky Ronnie. Every year he's losing a lot of his starters in the portal. And so I said to myself, damn. And then he follows up by saying, we're only going to sign 5, maybe no more than 10, but 5 high school players a year. Because we can't afford we can't afford to sign 20 high school players.
Right.
Because we're losing our starters. We're not even losing our depth. We're losing our starters. And we got to replace them. So the group of 6 is the junior college for the Power 4 teams. They've replaced the junior college. I started thinking about this, Rick. I said, okay, let's take a look at the 10% club. I call it the 10% club in the Power 4. All right. What's a 10% club? Well, let's just take the Big Ten and the SEC right now. You got Michigan and Ohio State. Okay. And you could throw Penn State in there for all that matters. And the SEC, you got Georgia, Florida, Alabama, LSU, Texas, maybe A&M. Throw them in there. Then you got Notre Dame as an independent, but and then you may want to throw Miami in there out of the ACC. But the majority of your 10% club is coming out of the Big Ten and the SEC. I'm talking about guys, programs that are not just the expectations, but the resources to win a national championship.
Right. Not
only the monetary resources, but their footprint where football is really, really important. And, where high school players are not that Virginia's not. But when is the last time any team of Virginia's won a national championship?
Well, that's right.
Okay. All right. In the power of, the Virginia Tech. So these are teams that have traditions of national championships in their program and are still relevant today. I call it the 10% club. All right. So now getting back to our conversation the day before, you're starting to think, okay, here's the group of 6 that's become the junior colleges. Now, even the Power 4 will go down to the FCS level. They'll go into the FCS level, the 1AAs, and go grab a kid or 2 out of that.
Right.
They'll go into the Division 2 and maybe even the Division 3s to that point. But it's all like it's like a pyramid of, you got the group of Power 4 who's cherry picking the group of 6. Then the group of 6 is cherry picking the 1AAs.
Right.
It's just survive and advance, and so next thing you know, the what separates the 10% club is I'm going to the portal. I'm going to go to the group of 6, not like AAU conferences or UAB. They got to go to the portal to what? Get a program, to get some wins. The 10% club is going to the portal to be national champion caliber programs. They're going to go get their needs specific, just like they're recruiting out of their footprint. Think about this, Rick. You got a footprint in Louisiana, and that's not just Louisiana. That's eastern Texas, northern Mississippi, southern Mississippi, that radius between Texas, Mississippi, and Louisiana, and then Florida or Georgia, maybe Alabama, but that's their footprint. Okay, LSU's footprint. I know I recruited there. That was the footprint. Okay, so in the footprint, you secure your footprint. Okay, with your talent. All right. Then next thing you know, you're able to go to the portal and be very position specific for needs. We need a quarterback, particularly, or we need an offensive lineman, particularly. All right. Or we need a defensive lineman, or a safety, and so, and it's no different. That 10% club, besides being positions, having a footprint secured, they now can go to the portal and be position specific. Just like they do in recruiting. They're recruiting position specific kids. Here's my nose guard. Here's my linebacker out of high school. Here's my running back out of high school. Blah, 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 blah. As opposed to projection schools, which is what they are. Now they got to project, and not, but then the projection schools also probably get to be more portal heavy because guess what? They're getting cherry picked. The Power 4 projection schools. Example, Virginia Tech. Didn't they lose? They lost the DB a year ago, who became a first-round draft choice.
Yeah,
right.
Yes.
They lost the offensive lineman. They lost about 2 or 3 kids to the portal to Power 4 teams. Right. University of Virginia. I know a couple of years ago they lost their best linebacker to Iowa. That was like 3 or 4 years. And then this past couple, they've lost that one couple wide out to Notre Dame. Look what Duke has lost. Quarterbacks. Wake Forest losing their quarterback to Notre Dame. So you got the projection schools here. When it's all said and done, Rick, if you're not in the 10% club, like where Virginia and Virginia Tech is right now, if I'm the GM coming into any of those programs, okay, and you write down, okay, here's what our program, our goals in our program. Number one goal, I think, in the select projection programs, or Virginia Tech specifically, or Virginia specifically, the number one objective is to have enough resources to retain your starters. That's number one. If you can't retain your starters that have come off an 11-win season like Virginia has, right? Or let's say Virginia Tech had an 8-9 win season. If you can't retain your starters, you're in trouble. Because what do you got to do then? You got to stay in the portal. You got to continue in the portal. You lose starters, you got to get starters. And you're not going to do it out of the high school, not to maintain your winning program. So your number one goal, if I'm at Virginia, I think the University of Virginia, how many portal kids did they lose this year? Can anybody answer that in chat? Off this 11-win team?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm not sure, Coach. That's a good question.
Prior to this year, they lost quite a few portal. They lost starters to portals prior to this year to the Power 4 selection teams. And the wide receiver went to Notre Dame. I can't remember which one that kid was. Had a great career at Notre Dame. LSU, the DB went to LSU and blah, blah, blah. So, and a couple of offensive linemen left and went in the portal at Virginia Tech. So that, to me, that'd be the number one priority is you better have your resources, and especially if you're winning, to retain your starters. Ohio State's not losing their starters to anybody.
No, they're not.
Okay? So that'd be the number. When you say I need resources, I got to go and get money to the money people. I need to retain my roster. If I've won. Now, if I haven't won, I'm going to unload the roster myself. That's where the portal can be an advantage. I'm going to get rid of the deadwood, the 10% that's not contributing. Like any rule of business, you cut your bottom 10% in order to improve your business. Okay? So, and then the next thing, the next phase at Virginia Tech, or what Virginia has to do, they got to own their footprint. Don't even think about going to Ohio and getting the best player out of Ohio. You better keep the best player in the state of Virginia, your high school player. So retain your own retain your talent, retain your starters, have the resources to do that. Have the resources to control your footprint, to be a factor in your footprint where you can get the top, if there's 5 great players in the state of Virginia, Virginia Tech needs to get at least 2 to 3 of them. You ain't getting all of them. Very few people that gets all of them unless you're Ohio State, in the state of Ohio. Okay. And then now if you're able to do that, retain your starters, have a great command of your footprint and high school players, now I can cherry pick the portal. I can go get needs and not have to sit there like UAB, rely, and I'm getting rid of 30 or 30 are leaving or whatever, for whatever reason. I got 30 players leaving. I need 30 players coming in.
Yeah. Right.
Woo! That's tough duty. You know, when you look at the Ohio States and the Alabamas and the LSUs, they're able to retain their players. They're able to take command of their footprint, okay, in terms of high school players. And then now they can be selective in the portal itself. And to me,
how hard is it for coaches to get through? Is it ego to say, hey, we're just a projection school and not a destination? Like, you know,
it's not, you got to know, hey, in order to know where you're going, you got to know where you left from. If I told you I'm going to give you a free trip to Hawaii, I'm going to give you 2 plane tickets for you and Janet to go to Hawaii, and I'll give you $1,000 a day per diem. What's your first question?
What's the catch?
No, my first question is, where are we leaving from?
That's true.
I don't give a shit. I don't give a crap. Don't give me the why, why? Oh, hell with that. The only first question I'm going to ask is, where are we leaving from?
Is that Charlotte? Is that Greensboro, Roanoke?
That's the only question I want. I got the ticket. You got the tickets. I'm going to give you the tickets and the money. Don't ask any other question. Where are we leaving from? So you got to know where you're going. You got to know where you're at, where you're leaving from. And that's where the Joe Tillers and the Barry Alvarez's in my era, and even Nick Saban, and especially Lou Holtz, they understood that. Now, here's where we want to go. I know where James Franklin wants to go, and he has that credibility from that national perspective to do that. And then the fourth element comes in, Rick. Now, if I get to retain my players, okay, own the footprint, all right, cherry pick the portal, now can I be relevant nationally and get into Georgia and beat Georgia on a kid that they wanted? Can I go in there and beat? That doesn't necessarily the number 1 kid or the number 5 kid, but there's a kid, I don't care what he's rated or what he is on the rating chart of Georgia, but Georgia wants him. Can I go in and get that kid?
Yeah. Right.
If I've done all 3 of those, I can't do that unless I'm able to do all 3 of the other first. You got to walk before you can run. You better retain your roster. You better own your footprint. And that allows you to cherry pick the portal and maybe get into the national scene and go get the quarterback from California, like Virginia Tech has already done because of the presence of James Franklin. Okay. And that's right. That's right. And then the other factor is this, Rick. The other thing I thought about, and I mentioned this to Todd, and he said 100%. I hope that makes sense to you.
No, it does. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
You know, in terms of building your program today in today's football, it all starts. You better start with your home base. You better start with your roster, and you got to have the resources to do that. Because if you don't, you're going to be sitting. You're going to be in that portal, in and out of that portal, and let me tell you, and then you're not going to control your footprint. And the next thing you know, you better win as a coach. You better win and get the hell out of it. Okay, so here's the other factor, Rick. That players back in the day, and I've always said it's the greatest compliment from Frank Beamer that's never talked about is the number of brothers.
Yeah,
sets of brothers.
The
that
lineage of brothers. Yeah.
To me, unless somebody tells me I'm wrong, I don't know if that's a record in the NCAA. The sets of brothers that came to Virginia Tech and played for Frank Beamer. If it's not, he must have got to be in the top 5. If it ain't number 1, because here was a bunch of them. Not in my 40 years can I ever remember that. The numbers. And the reflection on Frank is brothers are going to be honest with brothers. That brother is going to grab that kid and say, do not come here. You do not want any part of this. Or he's going to sell him on the program, sell him on Frank, blah, 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 blah. Well, right now, in the era of NIL, if you're going to Georgia, okay, and Chris Cole is your host, a Virginia kid goes down and visits Georgia and Chris Cole is his host, he's going to be able to tell that kid, hey, look, whatever you're going to get in NIL to come here, none of my business, and I really don't care. But here's what I'm going to tell you. They have the resources here. But most importantly, this is what I would talk to the host about, selling. Most importantly, you do the right things here. You stay off the list. I'm talking about, you know what the lists are, don't you? You know, cutting classes, blah, blah, blah. Stay off the bad list, okay? Be a good student here. Doesn't necessarily be A, B, and C, but be a good student here. Be a competitive student. No off-field issues, okay? You will be rewarded. If you're starting here or you're contributing here, 30 for a potential national championship, they will take care of you. You will get paid here, okay? And I can tell you that right now. Talk to anybody on this football team and they will tell you. So it's all about gaining trust from your GM and your NIL people that my value, if I come in for $500,000 and I'm starting and we win a national championship, I'm going to command another $500,000 probably in my value. As an example, I'm throwing figures. I don't even know what I'm talking about, but I'll throw those figures out. Well, you come to Georgia, if that happens, and you're not a bad guy, you're a good guy doing all the right things, you're going to get paid here. Players are going to sell that to players. That's something that's missing in this equation.
When do you think
they're selling that?
Will the college GM role at some point become like an NFL GM? Will coaches,
absolutely. No, somewhat. He is.
Okay.
He is, Rick. And so now, not only, years ago it was, okay, let's visit with the trainer, let's visit with the academic people so you can, your commitment, you understand the trainers are committed to you. Before you can commit to a university, you got to feel good about the commitment of the trainers of getting you healthy, taking care of you when necessary, and the academic people taking care of you when necessary. When they have the resources to do that, and it's called commitment. You know what facilities show to a player? Commitment. That's what they show. This is our commitment to winning physically. Here it is. Look at it. You think we're committed to winning? Come on here at Penn State or Ohio State or Clemson. This is our commitment to winning. That's what facilities, because that's what it's all about to an athlete. You can't ask for a commitment from a player unless you're totally committed to him and all the phases. And NIL is a part of that now, the NIL commitment. And then now as a GM, when it's all said and done, through coaches' recommendations or whatever it is, just like offering a scholarship. Hey, I want to offer Rick Watson a scholarship. Okay, here's his position value. Every position is going to have a value, running back, right. DB, blah, 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 O-line. They're all going to have a certain value. And then they're going to have a certain talent value that the player is going to bring to the program. Your commitment to that. And that can be a crapshoot because a la Florida State, Colorado. So those are the things that I think that aren't being talked about enough today.
Is that positional value, is it evolving? Like the NFL pretty much has a set positional value for those different areas. Is that now gotten away from what the school themselves value it and looking at what the market, I guess it has to flow with what the market's dictating, right?
Well, this is why you want a guy like Todd Grantham on your staff, especially as your D coordinator, or if not your head coach. I told Todd, I said, I would hire you tomorrow as a GM, and you would be one of the highest paid GMs in the country.
Yeah, you'd be great at that. You would.
Oh, I would. Oh, without a doubt. Because, the NFL experiences in dealing with these, of your resource and what you got. For example, okay, and this is me now talking, and I may be out of place, probably not fair, maybe not even right. However, the number one kid by 247 in the state of Virginia that LSU got, I'd have said, look, because, I needed more information on his physicality. Not that I'm not a coward. Oh, he's not a coward. He is a physical player. When he tackles somebody, man, he is a physical player with great purpose. But not one time, not one snap on a highlight tape. And this is not fair, but it's a highlight tape. Not one time did I see him take anybody on, get off a block, and go make a play. Not one time.
You never felt about him like you did the Cole kid, did you?
Oh, no. When I saw Cole play, I went, that's as close to Lawrence Taylor as I'd seen in an awful long time. As far as, that's fact. When I watched Cole play, when I evaluated him, I went, oh, Jesus. It was like looking at Lawrence Taylor. When I first watched Lawrence Taylor play in his first game of his senior year. It's exactly, so no, did not. And so all of a sudden, I'm going to go and say, as a position coach, my recommendation, the GM is going to make the final decision, same with the head coach. As an assistant, you can only recommend. I recommend we offer him. Here's what I recommend you pay him. And don't go a penny over. Now, hey, you're the GM, you're the head football coach. You want this kid, fine, have at it. Go in the bidding war. And we'll see where it falls. Because this is my issue with my, why? Because the physicality at the line of scrimmage, I haven't seen. And maybe LSU had him in a padded camp. Maybe there's so much more information you can get. Maybe they've watched him practice. I don't know. They've seen the whole game film. But that's my point on NIL and GMs. GMs have great roles now. You better have some NFL. You better have NFL experiences on dealing with free agency and the draft and the money with those two areas. And you better have people in your. That's why Franklin he just didn't have enough. They've got good facilities at Virginia Tech. Trust me, they just don't have enough room to house all the administrative, the GM and his staff to be effective in their job. You have, your physical environment allows you to have success in your job that you have. If not, we're going to get another guy. I'm giving you everything. There's nothing you don't need to find players, evaluate players. I got all the bells and whistles that you're going to need to do that. And I don't care. There's not a place in the country that you're not able to do that. If you're not doing it, I'm going to fire your ass. If you're bringing in bad kids or kids that can't play, I'm firing those guys. So that's my take on that, Rick. Again, retention, I think it goes in this order. Retention for starters, owning your footprint, being able to cherry pick the portal. And if you can do those three things and you get to win games or get in the playoffs with those three things, then maybe my next goal, my next thing to conquer is I'm going to Ohio and I'm going to recruit. I'm going to Alabama. I'm going to Georgia. I'm going to Florida. And I'm going to compete with these guys. I've got the resources to do it. I got the wins to do it. And maybe I can go in that state and beat Florida or Georgia for a kid they wanted. Then now you can call yourself national champion contenders when you get to do all four of those things. That's what Ohio State's doing. They're retaining players. They got their footprint, and they're cherry picking the portal, and they're able to go to the state of Virginia, or Georgia's able to come to the state of Virginia and get Chris Cole. That's called the 10% Club. What's that? I can't hear you. Can you hear me, Rick? Your volume went off. I can't hear you. You want to reboot me?
There we go.
Ah,
There we go. Yeah.
I figured this may have been my last show. I just got fired.
No, people keep sending me texts.
Hey,
about
Morris.
the volume
Hey,
was
Morris.
low.
Rick just fired me.
You good now, Coach? You got me now?
Yes, I do. But those were just things I was giving some thought when Todd told me about 80% of the starters in the AAU conference were cherry picked. And that led me to all these different thoughts of, how is Virginia Tech going to get into the 10% club?
I don't know. Winning? You think winning? It's winning. Winning's more than coach, and then money. Money and winning.
It goes hand in hand.
It
It's the chicken and the egg. Can't have one without the other. Success and confidence is chicken and the egg theory. Argue it all you want, but here's the truth. Can't have one without the other.
Right.
And winning will breed, okay, kids still want rings on their fingers, Rick, when it's all said and done.
That's right.
No, they do. They want rings on their fingers. And there's only about 10% that are committed from the top down. They talk, Franklin talks about alignment. It's not the alignment. You don't need the alignment to go win games. People have done that forever with presidents that don't care about football or ADs that don't like you as the head coach. You can go still win your games. Okay. But now, where's the commitment from the president to the AD to the Board of Business to winning a national championship? Where's your commitment? There's only 10% of those guys, Rick.
That's right. That's right.
And
I ask that
so,
question a lot. I don't know the answer to how many of these programs are actually committed to that, or are they just trying to get their fans to give them
just name
money, right?
Take Big Ten, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, SEC, Georgia, Florida. Florida's been a disaster, but they're committed. Because they've done it before.
They are committed, yeah.
Okay. Miami's committed in the ACC.
Florida State.
Committed, hadn't worked.
Hasn't worked.
Clemson, I guess committed.
SMU's
committed. Hadn't worked.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the ACC, Rick, this is crazy. I just wrote this down too. I love your class. It's like being in a classroom. All right, Professor Watson. All right. Look, you know what? When it was all said and done, I learned this out at Washington. Anytime we measure our own program, all we did is the conference play. We measured our program offensively, defensively, in terms of the statistics that affect the outcomes of the game. We just did it with the conference play. That was our true measure of where we were at with our program, our players, and our needs. Just conference play. The hell with anything, everybody else. Okay? And so you look at the ACC, here's the sixth. Virginia wins the most ACC games with 7. They were number 1 in the conference. They won 7 ACC games. Miami, Pitt, Georgia Tech, and I think SMU and and Duke, they won 6 ACC games. And then the rest are like Carolina, 4 wins. Right, Clemson, 4 wins. You're going below 500 in the conference play. That's not good. And there's a lot of them in that conference. Ones that shouldn't. The Florida States, Clemson won 4. Florida State won 2. UNC won 4. Not good.
No.
Wake Forest won 4. Okay. I mean, you can talk about the 9-win season, but they won 4. Duke won 6. Miami won 6. Virginia won 7, unless I misread that, unless I wrote wrong. So, you're looking at conference play and you sit back and you go, hey, it's like, so the money and facilities guarantee nothing. All they do is give you an opportunity to have success. There are no guarantees that the money is going to, you can raise, Virginia Tech can raise all that money they want. Right now, you better retain your players. You better own your footprint. And you better be able to cherry pick the portal and get your needs, quarterback particularly, more than any other position. Look at the programs. I mean, Cal, their quarterback gives them a chance.
Yeah.
Right?
He does.
The greatest of all the 10 and 11 win teams that I had been on, when we had Eric, was it Chapman, the quarterback, I think in 86 at Virginia Tech. We lost all our quarterbacks. This is his first start, his senior year. His first start. We win 10 games with this guy. And what happened was he gave us, the good quarterback. I've said this numerous times, Rick, they give you hope. It's all the good quarterbacks. They give you hope. You can go into a game knowing you have an opportunity to win this game. You're going to play a little, you're going to practice a little harder. You're going to practice better. You're going to practice with a whole lot more purpose. And that's the key. Practice is one thing, practice with purpose. That's the key. When you line up on that field, every drill, there is a purpose to win that drill. And you're not winning all of them. How you respond when you lose a drill. You're preparing for your game because these things in practice are going to happen in the game. How you prepare with adversities. That's why Coach Holtz had to say, if there's not a crisis, he was going to create one, which I carried on with me in my coaching career because I wanted to see where the pain was going to be. But, that's what the great quarterbacks give you. And that's where the portal has changed to me. Huge. Hey, Indiana gets a kid from Ohio University. Signetti's first year, they win 10 games. Then they get Mendoza from Cal. They win a national championship. Okay. So I was going to ask you about a former place you were at, but I think you've described, like Syracuse to me, as far as they've fallen off consistently for a decade now. But I guess now that I hear you explaining all this, I guess I'm hearing why they've just fallen off. Well, think about it, Rick.
Not relevant anymore. Yeah.
I don't know this, but my first question is, have they been, whatever the starters are on the teams that have not won, have they been able to retain their starters? Have they been cherry-picked, their starters? But I don't know that. I know Virginia Tech was cherry-picked a couple of years ago. Their starters, right? The DB went to LSU, first-round draft choice. Okay, has that happened to Syracuse? I don't know that. Okay, when we recruited up there, the footprint for Syracuse back in the 90s, when I was there in 91, 92, was Long Island, Connecticut, which was the best football in New England, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. That was the footprint. Okay, the state of New York, obviously. Okay, Northern Virginia was a footprint. It was a big DeMatha connection. Don't ask me why, but that Northern Virginia, the D.C. area, Maryland, became a footprint for Syracuse. Florida, back in the early days, you had Miami, Florida, Florida State. That's all you had, Rick. So guess what? You don't go find the kids they want, but there's enough players in Florida to go get the kids at Miami, Florida, Florida State weren't recruiting. And I coached a bunch of those DBs, Florida DBs, that Miami and Florida State did not recruit. They recruited them, but they didn't want them.
Right.
And there was enough to go around. Here's what happened to Syracuse. Okay. They made some poor judgments in coaching. Okay. But to a point after they fired Paul Pasqualoni. However, they lost Florida. Why? Because now you got Central Florida, South Florida, FIU. Those schools weren't around before. So they may not be getting the, USF, South Florida, and they can go get the player that Miami, Florida State, Florida don't want. So next thing you know, Syracuse goes down to Florida, and they got to compete now. The Dome was very attractive to the Florida kids because you didn't have to play in bad weather. Okay? Very attractive. They loved the Dome. And Syracuse basketball attracted kids. And we were winning. Right, that attracted kids. But now, South Florida, they can go get the kid that, okay, they're not going to beat Miami, Florida State, but they can get the next best kid. They're beating Syracuse on that kid. Maybe even FIU and FIU, because the kid can stay at home now. Okay? So that hurt them. And then the fact that, they went through a great string of quarterbacks for a while, and they couldn't get the quarterback. They've never been able to get the offensive lineman. Even when I was there, we beat Ohio State, Texas, Colorado when they were like top 5 in the country. Okay, and Florida when they were rated 6th. Well, those are 4 wins in 2 years. We had a very average offensive line, and I think one of them went to the NFL. Not that that's a gauge. Very average offensive line. Great wideouts, excellent quarterbacks, good running backs. Not a great one. Jim Brown wasn't coming out of that tunnel.
No.
But our quarterback, tight end, and receiving core was as good as Miami's. As good as Miami's. We lost to them 16-13 in the Dome. Had them beat. That's another story. We had them beat when they were number 1 in the country. So that's what's happened to Syracuse. They lost that footprint in Florida for their skilled kids. Okay. And then all of a sudden, and then Connecticut, University of Connecticut football became a factor.
Yeah, they're good.
We used to be able to go into Massachusetts. If Ohio State and Notre Dame didn't want the Massachusetts kid, we got him, especially a defensive player in Massachusetts. We beat BC. BC could not beat us. So that's what's happened to Syracuse. And the coaches they had hired in the past, when they fired Paul, there have been some really bad hires in terms of being able to reestablish that footprint again. That's what they got to be able to do. But my bet is this, Rick. They haven't been able to retain their starters. They lost their footprint, okay? And they probably have had to do it with portal kids. And you get into that rat race, not good.
Well, it's interesting. The teams that, BC seems like they're lost in the desert. Bill O'Brien may not survive this year after 2 wins last year. He did a nice job of keeping Penn State out of the fire after the Sandusky scandal, but it hasn't worked for him at BC. They're just lost. Carolina, there's so many schools that just seem perpetually lost. Stanford is just, what is, so the very bottom, boy, when he hits the bottom, Coach, the ACC, it's at the bottom, man. There's no middle ground. You know who the worst teams are, at least right now.
Yeah, you got BC, Cal, Stanford, Syracuse. Then you got, the teams that should, and here's the worst part about the ACT, the team that should aren't. Florida State, Clemson, the should teams are not doing it. All of a sudden, if you got Florida State in the top 5, you got Clemson in the top 5, you got Miami in the top 5, and then all of a sudden Virginia Tech, they make a run to the top 15, top 10, top 15, or maybe NC State or Carolina should be a top 20 team. Should be. They're not, but they should be. Any coach will tell you that. It's the University of North Carolina, okay? It's like the University of Virginia or the University of Georgia. You are the flagship university, okay? And you better own your footprint. but you better have enough money to retain your own players. If you've got starters and you're winning 8 and 9 games, you can't lose a starter because you can't pay them. They're going to be gone. And that's what separates the projection and selection schools. And I believe that 10% club. And when I die, Rick, you'll have your show continuing, I hope, and that same conversation is you'll have the same damn conversation with some other slappy. Besides
no, he would
me.
be a slappy. If he's not Coach Jomo, yeah, he'll be a slappy.
Yeah. I was a slappy. That's how I looked at myself. Shit, I'm just an assistant coach, just trugging along for 40 years.
Does it make it easier for Tech because they used to be there to go back to that, or is it harder finding that again, like to get back?
No, it's going to be they're going to be relevant. They're going to be relevant because they finally made a financial commitment to retain their players. If they have the same financial commitment out of Brent Pry, is Brent Pry losing that DB to LSU? Is he losing those linemen to LSU and Auburn or wherever the hell they went? Whoever the hell they're losing. Brent Pry actually did, I think, an outstanding job in the portal as it first came out 3 years ago. Think about it. Every NFL draft choice that Virginia Tech had 2 years ago were who? Just portal kids. Tootin, the wide receiver from ODU, on and on and on. I think I'm correct on that. I may be off by one, but there was not a high school player taken in the draft from Virginia Tech. They're all his portal talents. So you look at Bayshawn Tootin, the receivers from ODU, he did a hell of a job getting portal kids at a low cost. Because once you go into the Power Four, you sign a Power Four kid, it's going to cost your ass.
But then he never followed it. Like he couldn't figure it out. It was like he never
didn't have his footprint, Rick.
Yep.
Couldn't get his footprint. Penn State's coming to Virginia and taking kids. Look at what Franklin did. All those Virginia kids now are at Virginia Tech. All the Penn State Virginia kids, freshmen and sophomore, portal kids, are from the state. The Mensa kid at Ohio State was a Virginia kid. They're all coming back. He got them back. So that, hopefully that can equate to wins. We'll see. That gives them a chance. But, it's kind of interesting. They're a projection school now. Right now, they want to be a selection school. They're trying to get in that 10% club with the money as it's been reported, and we'll see next year if all their starters, Grunkmeyer, like you say, the quarterbacks, you got to have two of them. The third and fourth, okay, you go in the portal, you're number 3 and 4. That's fine, go, good.
Yeah.
But if you're number 1 and 2, I can't lose them. Whoever comes out number 2 behind Grunkmeyer, and whoever maybe even beats his ass out, whoever, maybe he's number 2. Who the hell knows? But the bottom line is you better pay both those kids. Don't lose the second guy. Unless you got a portal guy coming in or another high school guy that you say, okay, you want to go? Go. This is what we're going to pay you. I'm not going a penny over. Go. Because I can bring in a high school kid with your talents and not have to pay you as much as you're asking for. Go. You tell your agent, go shop around. Let him go. But the number 1 kid, don't ever let him don't lose Mensa to Miami if I'm Duke. I ain't letting that happen. I'm not going to let that wide receiver from Duke go to Virginia Tech. I'll take some of my salary and pay his ass, those 2 kids. You take the cut from my salary to pay those kids. We can't lose those kids. We just competed for an ACC championship. Why? Because the quarterback and the wideout were 2 big reasons. I lose both those kids, I become a bottom feeder. So you got to be able to pay those kids. Can't let that happen. You can't let Notre Dame come in and get your best wide receiver. You cannot.
Sounds like you could be a GM. You could be a GM.
And guess what? And in the portal, Rick, guess what? Your own players at Virginia Tech when Coach Pryor's there, or Virginia prior to this year, hey, great, you come here, but hey, what happens? Why? This player started. He's a good student. He's a great citizen. Why'd he leave? Oh, he got paid more. Oh, really?
Right.
That's a commitment that the school's going to give to me if I come here? It's not what I'm getting. It's my value down the road, too. You got to think about. All of a sudden, I'm going to win for you. I'm going to start for you. I'm going to win for you. My value goes up. That's capitalism at its finest. That's this country. It's who we are. Pay me what I'm worth. Pay me what I'm worth. I only did that one time, Rick. I went into Coach Alvarez. We went from the shit house to the penthouse in terms of DB play. We were nationally ranked. We were the best secondary in the Big Ten. That includes a Nick Saban coach football team, Michigan, and Ohio State. We had the best secondary for 2 years in the Big Ten. For 2 years. So my second year, I went into Bear. I go, Coach, I don't want to be the highest paid guy. I don't care who that is, but I'd like to be number 2. At least number 2. And guess what? Good luck. Don't let the door hit you in the ass. And I went to LSU. That's how much they thought of my ass.
Well, it's a great breakdown. When you break it down that way, it helps people. It helps me a lot too, hearing about projection as opposed to being a destination school. Yeah, selection. It makes a lot of sense, Coach. It really does.
10%
really
club
does.
is their selection schools. They can retain their starters. They own their footprint. They cherry pick the portal. And when it's all said and done, Ohio State goes to Virginia. Georgia goes to Virginia. Georgia goes into Florida. Texas goes into California. Oklahoma still, I don't know but today, but Oklahoma was one of the schools back in the Bud Wilkinson days to all the history could go into Texas and beat Texas on players.
Mm-hmm.
And now they were NIL before NIL, but they could do it.
They were NIL before NIL. That's true.
That's why Oklahoma still has that national. They're on the border of selection projection, because they were able to go into Texas and beat Texas on a play. At LSU, when Nick was there, we went into Texas and beat A&M on players. 2 particularly I know of that started for LSU on the national championship teams. And before, Texas A&M was coming to Louisiana and getting kids in New Orleans, in northern Louisiana. So that's how that crap works, Rick. The first goal you want to have, retain your player. Retain your good ones.
Retain your players. Yeah. Yeah.
If I'm not in the 10%, if I'm in the 10% club, I know I can do that. But if I'm at Virginia Tech, you're raising all that money to me. The first place I'm going to be loyal to is my starters, if they've won from me.
100%. If they've won.
I'm at Virginia.
Right. Yeah.
I got an 11-win season, the best season Virginia's ever had in the history of the school. Those starters, give me the money. Because I'm not losing.
Right.
Okay? And then let's go to the footprint. My evaluations, I got 10 players in this state I got to get 7 of them. I got to get 70% of my footprint that I've evaluated. And then I'm going to the portal, and I'm going to the Power 6, and I'm going to go get the center from UAB. Or I'm going to, I'm going to the group of 6 schools or the 1 AA's, and I'm going to cherry pick it for what I want in my program. Know your program. Know your program. Don't get blinded by talent, and don't get blinded by bells and whistles. Just because they're a Power 4 kid coming to a Virginia Tech or what, be careful. You got example, Rick, and I'll let you go. I'm watching for New Mexico. This defensive back went from Bowling Green to Michigan State. Now he's at Michigan State. He's in the portal again. So I'm watching him. I'm watching him at Michigan State, and I'm going, He's a strong safety. You know what a Sky 4 safety is? He's not in any deep zones. He's always got short zones, right? He's got the curl. He's got the flat. He's got primary force. You know who that was, Rick? That was me. That was me as a player, and I wasn't talented worth a shit. That was me. I could do that, Rick. I could start at William & Mary being the force player and not being put in the deep half or deep third. I was good at it, okay?
You were good
Outside
at it,
linebacker. Yeah. So this kid's commanding money because he's power 4. I told the guys in New Mexico that no. Then I called Brian White at Bowling Green for some credibility. I said, be White. You know, the locker room's not for sale. I said, be White. Is this kid worth a shit? He goes, oh, hell no. Because we're glad he left. Now he's at Michigan State trying to command more money in, other. So that's how that crap works. You got to be careful. You better know what you're dealing with. You better know who you are. And that's what, again, if Joe Tiller was in the NIL era, he would be good at it.
Yeah.
Barry Alvarez.
Because he understood where he stood. Yeah. He understood where he stood. Yeah.
Rick, I'm giving you 2 tickets to Hawaii and $1,000 per diem. What's the question?
Where are we leaving from? There you go.
Thank you. Thank you, Rick.
All right, Coach.
We'll end it there, baby. You learned something
great
today, Rick.
I did. We all did, Coach, as always. Always. You took us to school, the Elmo school. So.
Hey, where are we leaving from, baby?
Where are we going? Yeah. We're there.
Well, I appreciate it. I hope, hey, if you don't have me on again, you cut that sound up. I can appreciate it. I got it. Morris, I got fired today.
Nah, that's on my end, apparently. I got something wrong with my audio. I got to try to figure it out. So
I'm not so sure you did that on purpose, Rick. I get the hint. No, just kidding.
No.
All right, brother. You take care.
All right. We'll see you later in the week, I'm sure, Coach.
That was a lot of fun. Trust me, enjoyed it.
It was. Take care, brother. All right. Good stuff from Coach, as always. Yeah, I don't know what's up with the audio. Everybody was telling me my audio. I was trying to adjust it there, and I actually muted myself here, so I don't know. What is it doing now, y'all? Let me know. Coach Elmo was great. Projection versus selection. So how's the audio right now? Y'all let me know. I mean, I'm not sure. It sounds normal to me, Myra. Everything seems normal here. So it seems fuzzy. Fuzzy's new. Let's see here. Sounds good now, Morris says. Yeah, I've tried to do all sorts of different things here. What's up, Mark? How are you? And I've got a good volume. I'm looking at my volume level right now. Like, I've got it up on this. I've got 2 screens here. And it looks good. It looks real good. It looks real good. It looks real good. So I'm not really sure. I could do one thing, but I'm afraid it would mess it up, so I'm going to wait and try it again later. It is always fun from Coach, and we learn a lot, and we learn a whole lot. We want to thank Lawson's Mobile Home Supply, by the way, 300 North Franklin Street in Christiansburg. Call James at 540-318-8011, manufactured parts for your home. He's the absolute best. And, of course, the NRB Super Bowl. Leagues are forming now, men's, women's, for kids as well. 540-382-5525. They were great for the bash as well. Thanks to Sundown Electric, one of the best manufacturers in our area that go out and create things for your home, craftsmanship, superior communication, cost, you name it, Sundown Electric in Elliston, thanks to the Smith brothers. They're the best at what they do. So it's good now? Okay. All right. Being told it's good now. Static in the background. Unsure. Probably because I had to turn it up some on this end. Just let me know. We'll keep adjusting. Morris says volume is fine now. Okay. Coach Mabry says it's good. All right. Thanks, everybody. I need y'all to help me when it's like that, because you're the ones watching and viewing. So how it's coming across is what I need to fix if it's not working. ReadySetFund.com, BobChrist11 at Gmail. Reach out to Bob and find out more about what the Ready Set Fund has to offer. Read more up on them at ReadySetFund.com or send Bob a Gmail. Professional Door Incorporated is doing 40 years, and they're celebrating the last week. You've got 5 days to call them before the end of business on Friday to get $40 off your preventative maintenance visit, 674-0008. Call Travis Williams. You can schedule it for 2 or 3 months down the road. Doesn't matter, but get on their schedule. Tell them you heard us talking about it. You run out of time. If you don't do it, you're going to blow a chance at $40. And you know garage doors are pesky, man. Hell, we had 3 in our neighborhood broken at one time. Al Michaels buffer selection turned on. National Bank member FDIC, the exclusive banking partner of yours truly in this program. 35 years I've been with them. Brandon's not in here today, but our BDST fan question of the week brought to you by the attorney Ryan Pry. I'll have to find out today what it's going to be. Now I'll get him to text me. 701 West Main Street. I believe it was something along the lines of but other than your favorite school, who else would you pull for in college football? Maybe that was it, but we'll get confirmation for it tomorrow. All right, Morris says everything's good now on his end. He's got that Palm Coast system, so. Little River Heating and Air, that's Charles Lee, 1095 Radford Street in Christiansburg, 540-553-2971. Look for the blue and black truck. We're presented each and every day by Pulaski County Sports and Entertainment. Thanks to all those folks. Jonathan Sweet, Tim Miller, et al. Jet ski events coming up here in early August, this weekend, matter of fact. Jonathan's going to be part of that, too. Not surprised. Not surprised. McClellan Chiropractic, that's Mark Hunley. 155 Walters Drive, sponsor of our chat room here. And check out the video. As many of you had, over 600 people have rewatched that video. That's cool. Family Fencing, sponsor of our studios. They were the first sponsor we ever had. 540-200-8294, familyfencingnrv.com. And we appreciate them for all of their great help, as always. And I believe that's everybody. Brandon at Top Shelf Apparel. Did I get everybody in there? Wayne says, maybe I'm the only one with static. Well, you are a Browns fan, Wayne. I mean, I don't hear any static on my end. Anybody else get static like Wayne? Keep in mind, we're all on different internets. We all have different computers. We all have different blah, blah, blah. I mean, things can get a little strange. We only have 15 minutes left in the show, so what is yes, Low Country? Yes what? Good or static? Are you getting static too? Sounds good for you? Okay. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate that. Rolling down 460 on LTE static. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. He hears the static too in the background. Not bad, like a fan. I don't have anything running. Slight static. Let me see. What about this? Tell me what this does. Let's see. This may not do anything. Likely it won't, but I'm going to try anyway. Let's see. How about that? Does that do anything right there? Did that help with the static at all? I know we're doing technical checks here, but that's okay. That is okay. That did not help at all? I need more than yeses and nos. I'm not even sure what I'm asking. So is the static worse? Is it better? What do we got? That's, I tried to put it down one way. It's like when I was on the radio. Yeah. Yeah, we never knew. All right, well, I don't know what to tell you about static because I don't hear anything. That might be a YouTube thing through your connection. You may have to reboot. I'm not sure. I have a sub meter on my board here that tells me when there's external noises, but I don't know. I just don't know. Let me try this. This is going to be dangerous, and we might lose all ability to communicate. Let's see here. Did that do anything at all? Did that do anything? I'm not even getting a reading now. You can't even hear me now, can you? Yeah. Okay. Well, unsure what the static is. I'll check all the connections and things like that before the show tomorrow. But I don't know. Coach Elmo says the volume is much better, so that's good. Yeah, not sure. It wasn't like this until, what, I guess on Friday people said they started to hear that, and then it got a little worse. But nothing's changed on my end, but maybe something, I don't know. I'll figure it out. We'll figure it out here. But any event, we got a busy show tomorrow. Marva will join us from Miami. Beloved Padres just swept her Marlins. They've lost, I think they lost 12 or 13 in a row. I believe Brian Siegler tomorrow, because I know the Boundary Corner's back this week. And Phil Steele will join us tomorrow as well. I feel like I'm leaving somebody out tomorrow. Yeah, well, I'll go back and listen and see what it sounds like today. Burnup's going to move, by the way, to Wednesday, since Phil's taking up 8 o'clock tomorrow. So, yeah, that's tomorrow on the program. So, Marva and Brian Siegler and Phil Steele tomorrow. Keon will be Wednesday. And then Burnup will be Thursday. And Damian Sartolet's back this week because he's been having some not health issues, but he had to have a procedure done. So he was out for a couple of weeks. So we're getting some people back. We're getting some peeps back anyway. So that's good. But yeah, I'll listen back and see what it all sounds like. Low Country says, am I in the minority that the jury settled on Grunkemeyer? You know, no, I mean, I get it, Low Country. He has to prove for a full season he can be the guy now that he's counted on to be the guy. Sure. We saw, what he was capable of in the Big Ten, so that's what I kind of based my thoughts on. But no, hey, you got to get out there now, and now you're behind a Virginia Tech offensive line, as opposed to a Penn State offensive line. So yeah, no, he's got to go out and prove it. I think he has a great shot at that. I feel good about it. But he may not. Yeah, that's right. Phil Steele tomorrow's to promote, but I hope he gets insight on how he has to adjust his evaluation. Yeah, I need to ask that question. It didn't look like it was going to work out with Phil this year, so I'm glad to see that there were changes on their end. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Wayne says, I think we will see a quarterback who can hit second and third options. Haven't had that in a while. Won't hold the ball too long, etc., etc. The tight end scenario will help. I think Tech being that 12 personnel, I like it a lot. I'm going to like watching that offense develop. But you have the expectations, and you have all these things that you get excited about, and then you have to be, cautiously optimistic as your personnel also develops, right? And I think that's very, very important. As it goes along. But he's got his chance early, right? He's got his chance early because he's got VMI, which he'll break into and have fun. You feel like they're still going to be better than Old Dominion, although I know people don't want to sleep on Old Dominion. And then you've got the Maryland game. And I think that's the game you can make a statement not only as a player but as a quarterback. I mean, as a team, but as a quarterback. So that's a huge game, massive game. I think it's easily the transitional game for Tech's season. And I think it works out great that if you're going to have a road conference game to follow the Maryland game, that it's, that it's a game like Boston College, who was 2-10 last year. All right, I was trying to fix one more thing here, but I'll do that. I'll do that before the show tomorrow. I'll go through all these things. Yeah, every time I try to do the thing it tells me to fix, it makes my mic go away. So I'll wait and do that when we're off air. So, but yeah, I get it, Low Country. I understand 100% why you would feel that way. I do. What's frustrating about hearing about background noise and all that, I'm not getting any reading of any, and I don't hear it, so I don't know if it's a YouTube thing for the day. You know what I mean? I don't know. I will troubleshoot when I get home from work later today and see what happens. But like nothing is different on my end of things, so I know sometimes things will happen a lot to some of the folks that I watch on YouTube, and it takes them a little while. Sometimes it's just the way that it works, right? Technology is a wonderful thing, but okay, I'm going to try this thing. Tell me about this right here. Does this make it louder? So does that right there make it louder? Does it make it softer? Does it make it fuzzier? Right there, what I just did. Which is it? Did that do anything? No change? Okay. All right, well, I'll work it out. But in any event, good show tomorrow. And remind me tomorrow as we're going through with Phil Steele to make sure if you have any questions, he'll be glad. That's what he's here for. But I know we're going to talk about Tech in Virginia. We're going to talk about the ACC. And we'll talk about the national picture a little bit. But we'll ask him about, I want to ask him how he projects this magazine now going forward. It's got to be just a completely different world for him right now in the way he has to go about doing all these things. So yeah, we'll definitely we'll ask him all those questions, because I'm very, very curious to see, how all these things come to fruition, or, how they don't come to fruition now. Like, did he have to put out previews and he didn't quite have the depth chart that he wanted? How long does he have to wait? He's somebody who's tireless in the way that he works, and so I'll be very interested to hear that, how he and his folks have had to adjust. So yeah. But that'll be tomorrow, and we'll any questions you have, we'll be glad to pass those along to him. Absolutely, we will. Absolutely. So there you go. I'll check that out. Thanks for sending that, Thunder. I'll check it out. Yeah, all right, Rusty. I don't understand. People that are just idiots. Just stupid to come on and put a post like that. What purpose is that? It's not funny. It's not clever. It's just dumb. And you're dumb. Did you see? I got rid of it, but it was just a stupid post. Anyway, everybody have a great rest of your Monday. Thanks to Coach Elmo for holding court. We got educated a lot. Selection versus projection schools, we now know. It's good stuff, huh? I mean, that guy thinks of every little detail about everything. And he says it so well. Make sure you reach out to Professional Door. You only have a week, 674-0008. $40 off your preventative maintenance. If you schedule it now, let's say 3 months from now, you might think, well, it's okay now, but then maybe something happens to my garage door down the road as the weather gets colder. If you lock in your $40 off, it doesn't matter when you schedule it, but you have to schedule it in July. In other words, you don't have to have the service done in July, but you have to schedule it in the next 5 days. So you might have wintertime problems, right? And you might need them to come check it out when the weather's a certain way. Well, you can lock that $40 off in now. 674-0008. All right, everybody, take care. Thanks for stopping by. Enjoy your Monday, and we'll see you tomorrow on the Tuesday edition.